Well, good morning and welcome to, let's get my picture up, just forgotten that. Elevenses, it's 158, show number 158. It's Wednesday, the 28th of July. It's a fairly cloudy morning here in London, a little bit muggy outside at the moment. Hopefully the sun will come out at some point. What have we got for you today? We'll talk about the attempted theft of an Africa twin that was caught on camera in central London in broad daylight on Monday. An interesting story from India, hero versus hero. Two halves of the same company are fighting each other for the rights to use the name on their electric vehicles. Sunra have launched an electric bike in the UK. Vinci claim their electric bike will self-balance. I'll have a sort of a finish off with some thought about beating bike theft as well. And one story which I've added since I wrote the intro, we'll also have a quick talk about a 19-year-old rider who was actually handed some probation on the Isle of Wight after assaulting a noise vigilante. So plenty to get stuck into today. So hang on in there and enjoy the rest of the show. We'll be around for about the next 35 minutes or so. Right, okay, first story of the day. I don't often talk about the Daily Mail in polite company, but there's an interesting news report this morning showing why I wouldn't leave a £14,000 Africa twin parked up in central London Motorcycle Bay. What happened, according to the story, I'll give you the link to that in a moment. A semi-professional cyclist, a chap called James Richards, was actually on his way back from doing a training ride when he came across four men, we all see wearing blacked out helmets and blacked out visors rather, using an angle grinder to cut 3 locks off the bike. Now, this was just before noon on Monday, and it appears they had a van ready to cart the motorcycle away. So he whipped his phone out and started filming them, and presumably told them he was filming them as well. So the link up, and that's not working at the moment. Hang on again. So yes, so what happened then was other people started to gather around the bike as all this was going on. Angle grinders not being the quietest of things in use, and by the time a small crowd had formed, it seems that 3 of the gang of 4 actually rode off on mopeds and in the van, which also drove off. So that left the final man apparently unaware that they were all gone, still trying to cut through the final lock. When he did get it off, it seems he climbed onto the bike and was attempting to push it away. At that point, bystanders stepped in and actually pushed him off the bike. So the bike fell over and he fled on foot at this point. On foot being quite literal, because he actually left one of his trainers behind. So the police are actually investigating this, and they took the trainer away for evidence. The video also appears to have captured number plates on at least one of the scooters and possibly the van as well. No arrests have yet been made. Inquiries are ongoing. So here is the link. You can see the theft in broad daylight and what was going on. And I'll come back to that at the end of the show. Right, so what else to talk about? Well, one of the things that you're always advised never to do is, of course, actually work with friends or family. And this is causing some issues for Hero in India. The 2 heroes involved are Hero Motor Corp and Hero Electric. And it seems they've created quite a complicated business web for themselves. Now, I reported a couple of months ago that Hero Motor Corp and a Gogoro network had announced a partnership which would bring the Gogoro battery swapping infrastructure to India. Basically, you would ride into one of their battery stations and swap out your swappable battery and put a freshly charged one in. And it appears that Hero Motor Corp are wanting to use the Hero name for a line of electric scooters which would use that technology. And that all sounds fairly straightforward, doesn't it, so far? But the problem is that you discover that although Hero Electric and Hero Motor Corp are run by members of the Munjal family, they aren't the same company. Pawan Munjal runs the much larger Hero Motor Corp, which until recently had operated solely in the combustion engine business. And Naveen Munjal runs the smaller Hero Electric. Pawan is Naveen's uncle, which obviously complicates the business conflict somewhat. According to Naveen, Hero Electric is wholly within its rights to prevent Hero Motor Corp from using the Hero name on any upcoming electric vehicles. He says that they're welcome to make and sell electric two-wheelers if it chooses, because there's nothing in their agreement that prevents Hero Motor Corp from doing so. But he says that the terms of their agreement allow only Hero Electric to use the Hero name on EVs. He says there is a very clear agreement within the family, which happened when we did the restructuring in 2010, on how the brands are to be used. There was no non-compete clause as far as product segments are concerned, which meant anybody could get into any segment, but there exists a very strong non-compete clause for brand usage. And he told an outfit called Money Control that in an interview. So Hero Motor Corp are looking likely to release their first electric vehicle sometime early next spring. Hero Motor Corp insist it will wear the Hero brand name. Hero Electric is threatening legal action if they do that. So all confusing stuff there within Hero. The story I've added to today's news item, over on the Isle of Wight, a 19-year-old motorcyclist has actually found himself on probation after assaulting a noise vigilante. Now, the story is slightly complicated, so I've got the short version of it here. Brendan Ashby basically admitted common assault against a chap called Stephen Diamond, 61-year-old, I think he was, and causing criminal damage to his phone. And that happened in Freshwater back in February. And apparently what happened was that Ashby parked his bike, went into a store to do some shopping for his father, when he saw Diamond outside taking photos and video of his motorcycle. Not too surprisingly, he walked out to find out what was going on. Diamond said that he had heard a motorcycle in the street and he went outside of his house to take a picture whilst the rider was in the co-op. But the rider then come out and started remonstrating with him, at which point he decided to walk away, he says, down the street away from my home, as I didn't want him to see where I lived. So he then apparently hid between houses, but when he came out, Ashby pulled up opposite him and apparently challenged him again as to why he was continuing to take photos and film his bike. Ashby claimed that Diamond didn't give him an explanation. Anyway, events duly escalated and Ashby eventually knocked the phone out of his hand and stamped on it, and he also stamped on Diamond's ankle. Now, in his defence, Ashby said that Diamond had wrongly accused him of being a noise nuisance, and his defence counsel admitted that he had reacted, but that he had felt unfairly targeted. He regrets his actions, but he felt he was provoked. Diamond told the police he was photographing and filming the bike because of speeding issues through the village, and that he wanted to send them motorbike registration numbers, and that Ashby was trying to prevent him giving the police that information. Ashby was duly handed 9 months probation, 15 rehabilitation days included in that time, and ordered to pay £40 compensation, £85 cost, and £95 victim surcharge. It's all a bit of a tangled web there, isn't it, really? I mean, noise vigilantes, speeding vigilantes. Yeah, we're hearing more and more of this kind of thing. Nothing in the report actually suggests that the rider was actually a noise nuisance or speeding. But certainly one thing I learned as a courier was that legal exhaust and sort of a stealth approach to riding was a definite advantage. On a number of occasions, I sailed through police checkpoints where other couriers were being pulled up simply because their noisy exhausts had brought police attention to them, and they ended up, of course, having to go through routine checks. And if a policeman wants to find something wrong with your bike on a routine check, they're probably going to find it. Anyway, well, that all reminded me, coincidentally, of a snippet that I found online a few days ago, which seemed remarkably apt. Do not, in any circumstances, tamper with the silencer. More noise may make the machine seem faster, but it has been found that alterations always reduce the performance. The silencer has been carefully designed to give the best possible power output consistent with a reasonable degree of silence. Excessive noise annoys the public and causes prejudice against motorcyclists. When was that written? All the way back in 1955. It comes straight out of the Velocette handbook. So 65 years on, absolutely nothing has changed. Riders are still fitting noisy exhausts, and they do stupid stuff like drilling holes down the middle of the silencer. That was I've got the XJ6, which you may know has a sort of underbelly exhaust. You just see the little the exhaust exit actually just pokes out the side under your right foot. It's a very tucked away system. But it's a common mod particularly in America, just to take a big drill bit and just basically shove it down the output and drill a hole straight through, probably wrecking the catalyzer into the bargain. So, I'm very much in favour of quiet motorcycles. Okay, who we got here today? Clive has said good morning. Terry has said swapping out batteries. One problem is there's going to be a rapid progression in technology to get a battery performing at the level it needs to. This is your second 2 or 3 year old generation 789 battery will rapidly be obsolete and won't be compatible or qualifying for exchange. What can I say? I don't know. I don't think anybody really knows, Terry. I mean, obviously, if you buy a bike with a sealed-in battery, like the Zeros that I'm rather fond of, you are going to be stuck with that battery. It's true. But if there's a swappable battery, I can't see why you can't buy a new battery and, you probably get money back for the old one. The contents are extremely valuable. As we probably know, that's why they're so expensive. My guess would be that swappable battery technology on these small bikes isn't going to get you stuck with an old, out-of-date battery. I would imagine that it will be actually updated fairly pronto. Talking of loud motorcycles, one has just driven past the front door at about 6,000 RPM. Right, okay. Paul's also looked in. Hi, Paul. Good to see you. Right, so while I'm between stories, don't forget, if I can actually get the banner to work this morning. Why is it not working? There we go, let's work it. Yes. So reminder to you, Wednesdays and Sundays at 11, live shows, nearly always, occasionally recorded one. If you do need to catch up, you can obviously catch up here on Facebook. Paul's just said he's a little bit late this morning, so you can do your catch up later, Paul. Or you can head over to my YouTube channel, Survival Skills UK, and find all the old shows over there, along with my 60-second safety video. So if you want to watch those, do feel free. There's about 43 of them at the moment over there. I think that what's happened is they've changed the interface on the software I'm using slightly. It's upgraded itself, so things aren't quite where I'd expected them to be. Right, okay, so one of the issues that I've had with some of the electric bikes I've been showing you is that they are often said to be coming soon and that you should pre-order now. Now, I'm always slightly concerned when I see that because there have been quite a few projects which have allegedly been close to production and they have never seen the light of day. And when you're fronting up quite a lot of money, I do wonder where it goes, whether it disappears into a black hole of an insolvent company, or whether you actually get your money back once you've put a deposit down. The Norton debacle, you only have to look that far to see how people who put cash down for a bike have been left now waiting on the insolvency service, the receiver, to actually sort out how much money is left over. So that is a good thing about the zero range, which I have to admit I do like. They are right here, right now. A second issue is that some of the electric bikes we've seen are just plain ugly. So have a look at this one, just to get that up on screen. There we go. See what you think of that. Obviously, slightly funky looking chap sitting on it there, but is it a hit or is it a miss for you? I rather like it. I'll give you a video clip as well to look at in a minute. It's actually a Sunra Miku Super, and basically it's built as a sort of monkey bike, and the machine adds a few twists of its own. So I'm actually quite liking the looks of it. It's not super performance. It's a 3,000 watt, 4 horsepower roughly motor. Gives it just about enough oomph to get it to a top speed of around about 50 miles per hour, which isn't going to set the world alight, but it's sort of in the monkey bike range of performance. So anything else to say about it? Well, yeah, a few things. It can be fitted with 2 swappable batteries, just for Terry, 72 volt, 20 amp hour lithium batteries. They should between them give a maximum city range of just over 80 miles, or around about 130 kilometers. It's not clear if the second battery is actually an optional extra. My guess is that it probably is, but don't quote me on that. Range will drop, of course, if you use the performance. It's quite nippy to 30, but 0 to 50 takes about 8.5 seconds, so a little bit slower to get up to that kind of speed. You get all LED lighting, and my favorite bit, you get an illuminated logo along the side of the tank. I know I'm pretty shallow really, aren't I? But that just happens to be something I rather liked when I saw it. No ABS, but you do get CBS, which shouldn't have to work too hard to stop the bike, because it only weighs 44 kilos. It's also billed as waterproof and capable of being ridden through water. The video clip, which I'll show you the link to in just a moment, actually also suggests that you can do some mild off-road riding on it. Standard charging time 4 hours. Fast charger is optional extra, and that will bring it down to around about 2 to 3 hours. And in case you're wondering who Sunra actually are, they're the largest producer of electric bikes in China, with a production capacity of around 2 million electric scooters every year. And they sell their scooters and lightweight bikes in 70 odd countries, and they have now arrived in the UK. So I think it's quite a funky little thing. See what you have tell me after you've watched the video. The second offering on the electric bike market today is rather different. It's this one here. It's apparently ready to pre-order. It's from a company called Vinci. So I have all those concerns about whether it'll actually make it to market. I'll leave you to read the online article, which I am also just about to put up. It's there, coming up now. But frankly, well, as soon as I saw this bike, and Samantha sent me the link, thank you, Samantha, the performance battery range equation simply didn't add up. It all looks like there's too much being claimed, too fast, too far, yeah, and the battery's too small. And some of the technology that's promised with this bike, that's that motorcycle with a noisy exhaust going back the other way. Wonderful listening to bikes accelerate over speed humps on roads like this. Yeah, so okay, it's promised to be self-balancing. Now, I'm not really sure why you would need a self-balancing motorcycle. One suggestion was that you can get off your bike, open your garage door, and then the motorcycle will follow you into the garage, a bit like your pet dog, which seems a bit pointless to me, but hey ho, there we go. Some people probably would greatly enjoy something like that. The self-balancing system appears to be electronically driven, so the downsides of that would be extra power consumption, of course, but also extra weight, probably where you don't really want it as well. And I'm not quite sure what would happen if the self-balancing is being used as you actually ride the machine. Whether it's supposed to take over from the rider and do the balancing or what, I don't really understand their concept. One of the issues is that something like that technology would be extremely quick and our own reactions are a lot slower. So I can see a rider trying to correct a minor wobble and actually making things rather worse and getting into a serious mess. You can do that quite easily if you old-fashioned steering dampers done up too tight. And there's certainly been mid-air incidents where the plane's been trying to do one thing and the pilots have been trying to do something completely different. And Da Vinci, what do we know about Da Vinci? Well, he was an innovator. He designed all sorts of interesting devices. There were sort of things that looked like helicopters. He designed something that looked like a tank, I seem to recall. He didn't have the technology to build them, of course, but the other thing is he was an acclaimed artist and he certainly produced beauty in paint. And, you know, this thing is actually, I think, more beast than beauty. I think actually it's a bit of a monstrosity and he'd be absolutely spinning in his grave if he saw his name attached to something like that. But hey ho, that's my opinion. You tell me what you think of it. As I say, beast or beauty. I'd be interested to know what you think. Right, so don't forget, if you've enjoyed the show, you can always head over to my coffee page and donate a coffee or a cold drink, probably this time of year, over there. And that also gets you access to all my articles, the old articles from Facebook. And I've just finished for subscribers, I've just finished putting together the long promised advanced riding course, basically. I've put my Performance Ben's course on paper for people who want to read it. Well, virtual paper, I should say. So do head over there, have a look and see what there is to read. There's quite a lot, and there's plenty of free stuff too. So, all right, back to that Africa twin then. So if you live in a high-risk theft area, what's the best solution? Well, the cyclist mentioned it wasn't the first time he'd witnessed an attempted bike theft in that particular neighbourhood where he lives. And he basically said they're not locals, they're people coming into the area to steal the bikes. And he said it's usually expensive bikes parked up there. Now, in June 2019, the Met Police added up the number of bikes that had been stolen in the previous 12 months, and they reached the fairly astonishing total of 5,940. Now, if that seems like bad news, the good news is it's actually down from 7,688 the year before, and I believe it topped 9,000 a couple of years earlier. So there are a huge number of motorcycles stolen in London, and according to the DFT, you've actually got about a 13% chance, which is about 1 in 8, chance of having your bike actually nicked if you live in London, as I do. So power two-wheelers generally make up about 2.5% of the total registered number of vehicles, but they account for about 10% of vehicle thefts, which is a horrible, horrible number. So, okay, what can we do about it? Well, recovery rates are poor. Only about 1 in 7 stolen scooters ever get back to their owners. Vicky Van Sumeren, who's the co-founder of the Bike Shed Motorcycle Club in London, they've also got another base out in Los Angeles. She says, in London, it's raised the price of insurance and some people can't even get motorcycle insurance. If you live in some postcodes in London, you can't get insurance because it's deemed a high crime area. And certainly my own insurance has skyrocketed, and even though my bike's parked off-road, I can't get theft cover anymore because I can't garage the bike because I live in a Victorian street of terraces. there's not room to build a garage even between the detached houses. Motorcycle theft is so bad in London that some riders have actually had a stolen bike recovered, only to have it nicked again. It's not just a UK issue. Since COVID-19, motorcycle thefts have risen in New York by 63%, so they're on the way up over there. The Department of Motor Vehicles gave the theft figures for 2020 as 985, so that's actually quite tiny compared with London, but it is up from 604 the previous year. So police out there recently issued neighbourhood warnings about theft being an issue. Got to help them if they ever get as bad as they do it is in London. 10 times higher our figures over here. One of the things I commented on before is manufacturers have done relatively little to tackle the issue. After all, at the end of the day, if they sell another bike to replace a stolen machine, it's doubled their profit. And they know full well that most stolen bikes are not recovered. But neither of the insurance companies either, which is a little bit odder because their business model is obviously based on the difference between what they bring in premiums and what they pay out in costs on stolen bikes. So if they could bump up the profit margin, surely that would be good for them. So you'd think they would look at ways to try to minimize motorcycle theft. Whether they could give out decent locks, tracking devices, I have no idea. But surely, the investment of a couple of £100 on a high quality lock would probably pay them back in terms of theft quite quickly. But I have to admit, we riders don't really help ourselves at times either. We moan about the cost of insurance till the cows come home, buy a bike, cover it with comprehensive insurance, and then having handed over a few £100, when it's stolen, what do we expect? We expect the insurance company to cough up, in the case of that Africa Twin, if it had disappeared, it would be 15 grand for a replacement. But there are actually two separate problems, and they have two different solutions. If you live in London, you have to park in London. You haven't got any choice about it. If you have your pride and joy parked near your house, you have immediately upped the theft risk. Now, the usual advice to park in a busy area and well-lit street where a thief cannot work undisturbed, really, as that video will show when you have a look at it on the Mail article, it's absolutely no protection at all. Neither is using lock and chain, really. It took them a few minutes to cut through the locks, but they got them off and they're all ready to go. If that crowd hadn't appeared, that bike would have vanished. And the alarms really achieved much either. There was one of the bike magazines some time ago set up a theft. They actually parked the bike at the side of the road, locked it all up, and then parked a van next to it. Everybody jumped out the back. They took an angle grinder to the locks. The alarm was wailing away. They shoved a couple of scaffolding poles through the wheels, ran up the ramp into the back of the van and drove off. And nobody batted an eyelid. Right in the middle of London, right in sight of offices where pedestrians were walking past, they were left completely undisturbed. So that Africa Twin owner was really lucky that bystanders actually got involved there. What else can you do? Well, you could have a tracker, but some thieves will simply leave the bike parked somewhere around the corner for a few days to see if it's actually recovered. If it isn't, then they can be reasonably certain it's not got a tracker on. But trackers can be blocked by just simply parking them in an underground garage or inside a steel container, shipping containers, something like that will block the signals. Portable jammers also can disable the simpler trackers, which use the GSM mobile phone network, and they can find the trackers using a digital detector as well. So even if it's well hidden, they can track it down. So you kind of have to come down in favour of secure parking. But the trouble is, it's being able to make it secure in the first place. Up in Lincolnshire, a prolific burglar has just been jailed for 16 weeks after breaking into a garage to try to steal a bike. Fortunately, he actually disturbed people, and he made enough racket that they woke up to see what was going on, and he didn't manage to get away with the bike. But the second problem is actually finding somewhere that's secure. Now, in Brooklyn, Roll Up Brooklyn provides what they describe as a safe and secure place to park your bike with 24/7 access. That's in Bushwick. I don't know where that is precisely. The Moto Girl Garage, which is a full-service community motorcycle garage in Greenpoint. You can park your bike there for $135 for a month. Riders Alley has locations in Williamsburg, Manhattan's Midtown and Financial District too, and their storage starts at just $100 a month. Now, I had a look at London, and I did find a couple of similar facilities. One's out in Wandsworth, which is not exactly convenient for you if you happen to live in central London, as the Africa Twin rider did. I suppose you could have a cheap and nasty scooter and commute to get your bike out of the garage. But I couldn't find any prices for bikes, but they're car spaces from £228 a month. There's another company that has Bayswater and Chelsea parking locations, which are a bit more central, but the access hours are limited in Bayswater. And I looked at it and I thought, what use is 10 till 6 on Sundays and bank holidays in terms of access? You know, that's when most people will actually be out driving. So I presume that those garages are actually used by commuters driving in to work rather than by residents who want to get their bikes out and run out on a Sunday afternoon for a nice ride. No prices on that site either. A company called Q Park does offer free parking for motorcyclists. You just need to pay £15 for a sort of key card, and then you can get in and park your bike for naught. But there are just 883 dedicated motorcycle parking spaces across the capital. That's a drop in the ocean. What about a garage? Well, yeah, you can rent a garage. I found one near Paddington, had everything it looked like it needed. Security, alarms, all the rest of it. For a bargain, £850 a month. That is a truly astonishing price. So there's the problem if you actually happen to live in London and you want to look after a nice bike. If you commute into London, you've got a slightly different challenge, because you will be riding your bike home every evening, assuming it's still there after you parked it up. So the easiest solution that I would suggest is that you don't buy a really nice top of the range shiny bike like an Africa Twin. Yeah, you know, if it's your only bike and you live there, then yeah, okay, you're a bit stuffed. If you want to buy a nice bike and own it, yeah, you've got a problem. But if you're commuting, you really don't need an expensive top of the range modern sort of 2021 machine. You can get a bike quite happily, which is a few years old. I think 12 years is the cut-off point at the moment for the emission zone. And it will cost you a fraction of the money. And if somebody does nick it, well, you can basically go and buy another one for what you've just saved on the cost price. Right, okay, that's enough for today. Just a quick reminder, I am running evening riding assessments at the moment. So if you fancy heading out and having your riding assessed with a professional, qualified, full-time riding instructor, rider coach, then I'm more than happy to do that. Basically, the idea is we get about an hour out on the road, and then we spend about an hour online via Zoom looking at some on-bike footage, which I will have shot while we're out, and talking about your riding. The routes that I use are carefully planned, and they honestly will throw up some very interesting surprises for you. So they are quite challenging rides, and you will get a good tryout, as it were. So yeah, those are available now in the evenings. We've still got some weeks of long evenings left. So, okay, anything else to say? That's pretty much it for the evening, or the morning rather. Thank you very much for looking in. Hopefully see you again on Sunday when I'll be back with the next show. Yeah, I can't think of anything else. Yes, that was it, I think. So I thought I had something else to say, but I really can't remember. Right, so yeah, thanks. Ride safe out there, and I'll see you again hopefully on Sunday. Take care.